Hello, my name is Eugene Pustoshkin. I'm clinical psychologist in private practice. Also, I am chief editor of the Eros and Cosmos online journal. And I am primary translator of the works of Ken Wilber, an integral philosopher who writes on consciousness, psychotherapy and spirituality. I translate his works to Russian. With my colleague Tatyana Parfenova, psychological consultant, mindfulness teacher and co-author of this presentation, we teach integral meditation. Together with Tatyana Parfenova and Sergey Kupriyanov, we co-teach Holoscendence. Holoscendence is a method of psychotherapy and communication and also spiritual growth founded by Sergey Kupriyanov. So, what is integral meditation? Integral meditation is an integrative experiential system of contemplative mindfulness development. It is also a complex technique of psychotherapeutic intervention. We use it in psychotherapy processes, and we teach how to use it in psychotherapy processes. Integral meditation is based on Holoscendence, and as I mentioned, Holoscendence is a therapeutic metamethod founded by Sergey Kupriyanov, and integral theory of consciousness, which is a framework founded by Ken Wilber, Allan Combs, and others. Integral meditation is also informed by various research paradigms, such as Leonid and Dmitry Spivak's research of altered states of consciousness. Their team were conducting altered states research at the Human Brain Institute in St. Petersburg. Also included are adult development theories, for instance, Robert Kegan's framework of stages of development, as well as Jane Levenger's and Susan Greuter's models of ego development. Interpersonal neurobiology, as explained by Daniel Siegel, trauma studies, I personally admire Bessel van der Kolk's work, body psychotherapy, somatic psychology, and various transpersonal psychology methods. Integral meditation is a combination of awareness-based psychotechnologies developed by Soviet and post-Soviet consciousness researchers. What I refer here is certain techniques which are called advanced deconcentration techniques. They were developed in the practice of psychotherapy, occupational psychology, extreme sports trainings, etc. And these techniques were discovered and developed by researchers, practitioners in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, Moscow and Kiev in 70s and 80s of the last century. Also, integral meditation includes an extensive phenomenology of non-pharmacological altered states of consciousness, the states of consciousness which emerge in individual psychotherapy settings as well as in group work and meditation retreats, where intense psycho-emotional experiences are manifesting quite often. Integral meditation has been applied by us in process of individual psychotherapy and counseling, group work, including hundreds of individual and group online sessions. Integral meditation includes an integral psychotherapy framework. It is not only classical psychological and psychotherapeutic techniques, but also a nuanced integral understanding of the spectrum of psychopathology and therapy. It allows us to integrate multi-level shadow material. Shadow is everything that is repressed into our unconscious. So this makes integral meditation applicable to trauma healing and psychedelic experience integration, among other things. So integral meditation has been tested and practiced by us in over 100 workshops, including extended week-long retreats. The integral meditation has been taught as a singular event and also as several long-term training programs. People study integral meditation over a few months. It involves integral meditation courses per se, and also it is taught as a subcomponent of Holoscendence courses, which we co-lead together with Sergey Kupriyanov. And Sergey has experimented with these practices for more than 30 years in clinical practice, psychotherapy, and individual counseling. And our own experience includes countless individual sessions. So our span of subjects who were participating in experiments with this method involves several hundreds of participants over several years. Integral meditation quickly induces altered states of consciousness, both in novice practitioners and in advanced practitioners. This is some kind of finding which is very interesting, because people who try it for the first time often experience a full-blown altered state of consciousness. In the beginners, altered states of consciousness could last from a few moments to 30 minutes and more. In advanced practitioners, these states can be experienced continuously in a fluctuating or stabilized plateau-like fashion. Abraham Maslow spoke about plateau experiences in the end of his career, so I refer to his term plateau experience. So integral meditation states can last throughout the day, and sometimes they manifest in dreaming states, for instance in lucid dreaming. You can practice these methods. Specific techniques of stabilizing and anchoring altered meditative states were developed by us in application to integral meditation. So, what kind of alternations of consciousness are observed when we apply this method? We have observed significant shifts in perceptive fields in our subjects, which includes most notably vivid oscillations of the visual field, often described by subjects as psychedelic visionary experiences, and shifts in auditory experience. Also, alternations in somatic self-sense. People describe fluctuations of bodily experiences, including changes in subjective feelings of body temperature, and alternations in muscle body tensions, and also how emotional experience manifests in body, in embodiment. What also changes is time experience. Sometimes time radically slows down, at other times it accelerates. I mean felt time, which Mark Whitman's books Felt Time talks about. Emotional experience, as I noted, also undergoes changes. For instance, subjects often report vivid experiences of rapture, joy, compassion, and so on. And also they gain access to their deeper feelings of sorrow, which because of that we can work with it. Interpersonal relational experience also is alternated. For instance, people observe increased rapport, empathy, trust, shared psycho-emotional experience, shifts in self-other perception, shifts in facial perception, and we use the shifts in facial perception as a psychotherapy intervention technique. We show how people see each other's faces, and they often think that the other person's face is something constant, unchanging, and stable, while this meditation shows how we construct our experience of the face of the other person. And people who work in psychotherapy, I'm sure, would understand how important this experience of the other, of his or her face, is to any human being. And we observed many other experiences, including intense peak experiences and experiences in lucid dreaming. Integral meditation can be used as a tool to work with various objects. It can involve immediate sensory objects, and also it can involve very complex objects, such as objectifying stages of child and adult development. In our integral meditation trainings, we teach our students various stages of child development and also of adult development, and offer them guided visualizations, guided meditations, and people often describe very intense psycho-emotional states that emerge because of that practice. Also, integral meditation can be used to understand very complex mental concepts such as hyperobjects. Hyperobject is something which spans which has an enormous span in terms of territory, and also it has non-linear temporal connections, and it is extended in time. For instance, one of the most famous hyperobjects is climate change. And also we applied integral meditation in our workshop to work with the current COVID-19 pandemic as a hyperobject. And people gain psychological and also intellectual insights into this complex system of hyperobject, such as the pandemic. Integral meditation has been producing profound experience of altered states of consciousness, including resurfacing and reintegration of forgotten traumatic experiences from childhood. Also, enhancement of thinking processes, often described as more pleasurable than thinking in an ordinary state. Integral meditation is practiced with your eyes open. So, because we practice with our eyes open, it can be practiced in daily activities. It can be integrated with most, if not all, activities of the day. People describe how they do integral meditation during business meetings, during their coaching sessions, and also during driving. And during driving, many drivers experience these states spontaneously. The experiential findings were applied by us not just to inducing varieties of meditative states, but also to communication and daily work activities. We have experience of conducting relational work and also corporate personal trainings. We have built a sophisticated system of contemplative phenomenology based on integral meditation. It can be enacted not only in an introverted formal meditation setting when a person practices on his or her own, but also, as I mentioned in extroverted daily activities which require active participation of the subject in his or her own surroundings. In the instances of interpersonal conflict resolution, business meetings, physical sports activities, learning, and ordinary interpersonal communication. Integral meditation has offered us essential phenomenological data on how human consciousness is functioning in its various states, including subjective processes, which can be called first-person approaches, intersubjective dynamics, which can be called something which belongs to second-person approaches, and also objective dynamics. Specifically, we explore how first-person and second-person dynamics influences the construction of perception of third-person objects, such as physical items or physical human features. People describe how other person's faces changes, as I mentioned, or they describe how their surroundings, their perception of objective surrounding starts to change. They see it in a more there's more light in the room while the objective light is the same, or it becomes darker, for instance, or they see fractal geometry intertwined with the objects, and they start to understand how their object perception is actually a complex process of construction. So our findings support, at least partially, the constructivist approaches to consciousness. Integral meditation is a kind of meditation which is being a deliberate practice of intentionality, allows us to see consciousness as a very plastic, dynamic, and co-inactive dimension of our being in the world. We practice integral meditation in communication, in psychotherapy, in work activities, and we see how due to our application of the specific techniques which involve equal redistribution of awareness throughout all sensory channels and also throughout mental channels, we see how the reality of consciousness, how its processes shift and fluctuate. And even thinking processes, when we sit in a meditation process, we undergo changes of consciousness states, and our mind becomes more spacious, more expansive, and we can work with more complex issues, both involving human relations or such sophisticated cognitive concepts as hyperobjects, as I mentioned before. So our findings suggest that consciousness is very plastic, dynamic, and we can influence it by psychotechnologies, and these states which emerge out of that, they can be shared with other people, and they can be experienced continuously throughout the day and throughout communication with other people. And we have repeatedly shown that we can train people experience these states, and even novice practitioners who do it for the first time or second time, they experience these profound states and peak experiences. And we also show how in the experience of people who practice integral meditation, they study their own psyche, they study their own consciousness. So this kind of paradigm of using psychotechnology, psychotechniques to alter one's state of consciousness in order to study it from within and interpersonally seems to be very promising. Thank you very much.